Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for being here. My name is Angela Fullwood. I am the supervisor for family and community engagement, and with me, I have my director, Dr. Felita Lewis. Tonight's session is the final and culminating activity PowerPoint presentation on weight, diet, and physical activity in African Americans, a cultural perspective. We're going to have a really rich conversation with our panelists. All right, well, I will go ahead and introduce our panelists. I'll introduce the speaker who is going to do the presentation, Michelle Stewart, and we'll get the formal introductions after Michelle Stewart, who is a nutrition planner. She comes with a wealth of knowledge. And actually, Michelle, I'll let you introduce yourself before you get started. Michelle Stewart.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a registered and licensed dietitian. I have a master's in public health as well as a certified diabetes educator. And it's a pleasure to be here, as I said. And I'm going to be talking about this evening or sharing with you some history of our food. I want you to know our roots, our heritage, our culture, as well as some nutrition tips to help us achieve a healthy weight. As early as 901 AD, diets of beans, kidney, and black eyed peas were mentioned in the African American diet before the Europeans arrived. So that's really how long that we've had such a rich history in our foods. And African Americans are really proud of their culture and renewing and establishing links to tradition and heritage. Our foods come from many different parts of like the Caribbean, Low Country, Cajun, and soul food is universally equated with African American cuisine. And many soul food recipes only had one pot because we had not a lot of equipment and things were scarce in the beginning. Family, religion, respect, that's very important in our African American culture. As you can see, family gatherings are important, religion and sense of duty play significant roles. Respect and acceptance are key in social and professional relationships. And food is the center of our culture. Sunday dinners, they're so filled with a wealth of every kind of food, conversation, gatherings, fellowship, and it's usually at Big Mama's house. Everyone has a Big Mama. And for many African Americans, food is the center of everything. I've even been told that it's our vacation. We may not be able to go to the Hamptons or to Europe, but we can always have a fish fry. So soul food, that is a term that we didn't really invent that. As far as I can tell, African Americans did not come up with the word soul food, but it is related to our culture. And you can see in Webster's dictionary, food as ham hocks and collard greens, traditionally eaten by Southern African Americans. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that needs to change to have our healthy weight. And we just call it dinner. So it's not any even considered soul food and different types of food. It comes from simply it's dinner for us. As you can see, many of the very healthy foods have African roots: rice, yams, green leafy vegetables, okra, turnips, gourds, sesame seeds, peanuts, watermelon, and beans. So there is some healthy options. It's just the way we're preparing them. And we'll get into that a little later. So today, soul food is enjoyed by a diverse group of people. You can go into any soul food restaurant and you see all cultures there enjoying the food. And food, as I said, is kind of the center of everything. And most of us today we don't work in the manual labor like we used to, so we can't eat like we used to. And I'm getting hungry just looking at these pictures, but we have just need to lighten things up, and we'll talk about that too. And that's one of our staples, and you can see what happens. So here's some of the popular restaurants, churches, and cafes, and people tend to go after church. Sylvia's is very popular. Dookie Chase in New Orleans are some of just the ones that are popular, universal from coast to coast. People go when they go to Chicago, they go to Gladys. When they go to New Orleans, they go to Dookie Chase. So I just wanted to share that briefly with you all, and I'm ready for the discussion.
Well, thank you for that, Michelle. Thank you for that little history that we have going. And I'm going to start to introduce our panel. So you just heard from Michelle. She is the president of Michelle Stewart Consulting and Associates. She's better known as the nutrition planner. She graduated from Benedine University, received her master's in public health, Florida A&M University, bachelor's in food, nutrition, and dietetics. Certified in pediatrics, certified in diabetes care, education specialist. She's done her fellowship of the Academy of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and she has over 40 years experience. She's a registered and licensed dietitian nutritionist. Next, we have Jean Van Coovering. She's a fitness cycling coach. She attended Indiana State and Davenport University. She has a business degree, and she has 25 years experience. Next up, we have Sheila Paget, Operations Manager, Medicare Part D, and co-author of It's Time to Start Eating Smart. This is one of the books that our mayor read today. She attended the University of Florida, National Louis University in Chicago, currently enrolled at Cornell University for nutrition and healthy living certification. She has a bachelor's of science in business management and a master's in educational leadership. Thank you for being with us. She has over healthcare for over 7 years, middle school reading teacher for 7 years, and again, a children's book publisher in 2021 after initially writing it over 25 years ago. Next up, we have the co-owner of Knowledge IS LLC, Iva B. Carter. And they really want to promote a healthy mind, body, and soul for children and families, planning to partner with existing professionals in preparation for making a profound difference locally, regionally, and nationally. The current book that they wrote again is entitled It's Time to Start Eating Smart. And she has information technology, service delivery manager, co-author. She attended Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Howard University in Washington, D.C., Lutheran Rice College and Seminary in Lithonia, Georgia. And she's enrolling at Cornell University for nutrition certification following her seminary graduation. Degrees are in Bachelor of Science, Computer Science, Master of Science, Computer Science, and a Master of Arts in Christian Counseling. She's been practicing information technology for over 30 years, and again, published a children's book in 2021. Last but not least, we have Kimberly Portier. She's a fitness and personal trainer and wellness coach. She has an associate's degree in business, and she attended Remington College for sports conditioning and kinesiology. Can't say that. Kinesiology. I think I said it right. And they are with us. Thank you, panel, for taking your time out. Just as Michelle said, we as African Americans, we gather. Like that is our thing. We gather, and every gathering we have food, and at every food, one of the foods that we're gonna have is fried chicken. Like we know we're gonna have fried chicken, macaroni. Like that is what we're gonna have. But really, this discussion is really talking about the need for us to focus our efforts and identify and close research gaps that are related to obesity interventions in the U.S. and our Black populations because of these food gatherings that we have. And it emanates from evidence that compared to the white population, overweight and obesity prevalence is really higher overall, and across our body mass index, BMI distribution, with some observations and some time trends that are less favorable for Blacks and adults, and especially between the ages of 18 and 22. So we're going to have that discussion today. And I want to know, first question is, I talked about body mass index. What is BMI? Can one of you explain what is BMI? And just unmute yourself.
BMI stands for body mass index. And I'm sure everybody can explain, all of us know what this is, but it's basically your mass divided by your height. And it determines where you are as far as how much fat is in your body, and as far as your weight relates to your age, and where your body mass index should be. And it was developed back in 1930. So it's a little bit antiquated in my opinion, but doctors still use it. But I found that doing BMI sometimes on athletes, they will be at a 30 on their BMI, which is considered obese, yet their body fat percentage is very low, like 14, 13%, because of all the muscle. So it's, they have the weight, but they don't have the fat. So BMI, so you have to look at not just BMI, but the whole person. That's what I usually do.
So basically a combination of BMI and your fat, your body mass along with the weight. Because from what I understand, muscle weighs more than fat. Is that true?
No, it's not.
It's not true.
5 pounds of muscle weighs the same as 5 pounds of fat. The difference is fat takes up more space.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that. And so what we see in Americans, we as Americans, we have the highest obesity prevalence when compared to our peer countries. And the prevalence in Blacks, so we're talking about in America, we weigh more than the rest of the world. But then not only in America, Blacks exceed that than whites by a significant margin. Moreover, in my study, that I see that there are empirical and theoretical reasons why to the effectiveness of the availability of interventions for why or treating obese and Black populations. So I want to take a look at some of the data. It says that the higher prevalence is reflected in the newest U.S. National Health and Nutrition Examination, that's survey, that's the NHANES, showing that 76.2% of Black adults ages 20 years and over, compared with 67% of whites, had a BMI levels of 25 or greater. Now you said at 30 is when you're considered obese, correct? So obesity prevalence at or above 30 cutoff was like 47% in Blacks and 32% of the whites. So almost half the Blacks in America have over 30 BMI. And let's look at children, 2nd and 3rd graders. Obesity prevalence at the BMI was at that had less than a 35 BMI in 3rd graders was 23% in Blacks and 11% in whites. So let me ask, I know Michelle did a great job with talking about why, but why are so many, because not all of us really eat like that. Like a lot of us do, but some of us don't. Why are so many Blacks considered obese? Michelle or Kimberly?
I'm not shy, but go ahead,
Okay, go
Michelle.
ahead. Go ahead. I mean, this is a discussion, so just jump on in.
So
We're like girlfriends talking.
I had the honor, and it was just an amazing thing. It was a group called Sisters in Action. When I worked for the YMCA, we did a grant, and we partnered with the hospital here, Spectrum Hospital and the YMCA, and we took 350 African American women.
Okay.
Because the women are the matriarchs in the household. They decide what to eat, what's going on, and everything in the household. They are the drivers of the household. So we looked at what was going on in the community, why we had such a vast obesity with Black women and then their families. So the grant was written to work with me, a dietitian, and we had psychologists, we did blood work, we did everything periodically to work with these women to get them moving. They had a sedentary lifestyle, had so many obstacles like transportation, the kids, the homework, they couldn't afford the health clubs. Okay. So we removed all the obstacles. We removed all the barriers for them. We had buses pick them up. We fed them snacks, fed the kids snacks. The entire family got a membership. I did all the fitness training. I met them where they were and started working them out. So a lot of that is obesity is, I think, had to do with movement and not having the support around them, and the learned behavior is to not to work out, or this fat is sexy now.
Right. So I was going to bring that up. But before we bring that up, I want to talk about those barriers that you talked about. You said transportation, access to health clubs, and maybe it's a financial thing, but and I know we were going to talk about, like, what are some things that you can do, because I know, Kimberly, you do a lot of workout at the park. Let's talk about, even if you can't afford health clubs, what are some things that you do to help keep people moving?
Oh, it's definitely a community group. You get them out, you get them active, even if you just start walking. Getting, if you see friends and family in the neighborhood, start a walk club. If you have access to the trails and the parks, which are especially the city of Tampa do a really good job with making the parks accessible. Lights in the that come on in the evening, so it's not dark at the parks. You can still work out, with the time change. But just getting groups of women together to work out. I do a group, and we meet under the pavilion, and a lot of people see us working out there, and they are also encouraged. They start out by walking, and then they end up with the workout group. A lot of support with one another, getting those groups and people out there working in your community.
Okay, so what do you say? You talked about walking in trails and things. How much of a factor do you see with people in our community not having access to a safe or convenient place to be active, like at the parks? How much of a factor do you think that is, why maybe many people don't get out and walk their neighborhoods?
It's a huge factor because it makes them sedative. It makes them not want to get out, not want to walk when they don't see these things accessible to them. So they become sedative. And with that being said, that's how hypertension and other ailments come about with the body being sedative.
Mhm. So what are some strategies, Jean, that you think that can be done to influence higher levels of these physical activities? I know you did some things, but what are some other things? Because you live in Michigan.
In
So
Michigan.
okay, so what are and it's cold in Michigan, so that's another factor. I'm pretty sure people in the winter aren't coming out in those snowstorms and things like that. What are some strategies that can be done to influence higher levels of physical activity? What are some things that people could do in their house?
And that's a lot of things that we also did. Well, not only did they have a free membership, the entire family, for 2 years, we gave them things to take home that they could incorporate in their everyday lives so that they're not living a sedentary lifestyle. So if they're going to watch a favorite program or something, the family has to get up during commercials and maybe move, walk around the house, do some squats, do jumping jacks, jump rope, dance. And that's another thing. If you like to dance, dancing burns calories. We also told them to do a family walk after dinner. So if you have a group, a family, and then a group of peers working together in your neighborhood, you can have a much better success rate. The other thing that we did was we went to their church. And that is a huge thing in the African American communities, is their church. And if they can go to their church, and they will go to their church, they'll make it there. We started having things in the basement of their church that they could do.
Okay.
So just getting the whole community involved, like Kimberly said, if you get the community involved with their peers, they feel more likely and accountable to each other.
Common ground.
So you spoke a little bit about the look, because that's we really want to talk about culture. So in our culture, thick is good, like thick thighs, nice buttocks, that's good. And we know, because I know a lot of people who are going down to Miami or around here that are going to get that that BBL surgery, where that fat is gathered from the patient's thighs or their abdomen or their flank to enhance the shape of their buttocks. So do you think there are cultural or peer influences to our look, to our weight? Like, how do you all feel, Michelle or any of the other ones? Do you all see that in the community? And if so, if you do see, if you think there is a culture or peer? Okay.
Being thick or having not so ideal weight, it correlates with doing well, or it did. You're doing fine. And I remember my first job from Florida, I went to Chicago, and I was coming home, and I didn't have a lot of money, but our family told me, I hope you haven't lost too much weight. I don't want people to think you're not doing good. So that's how they equate it. So
interesting. That is very interesting. That is true. I never really thought about it in that perspective. The thicker you are, the better that you're doing it. I hear stories like, oh, you've gained weight, you must be happy, so it's like it is something that's good. And so really, there is a high mortality rate from diet-related diseases among African Americans. We talked about this last week in depth on our webinar. And if you want to go see it, you can go to that website, and it's posted there. But poor eating habits, a lack of exercise, increases our chances of developing cancer, obesity, hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease. And we know that some of these diseases can be reversed with good nutrition and exercise. Michelle, can you tell us what is considered good nutrition? when people talk about, oh, you need good nutrition meal, what is considered?
I really try to say there's no bad food. You know, things that a lot of times it's not even the food, it's the way it's prepared. So you need to eat a variety of foods in moderation. And my motto.
There's someone that needs to be muted. I got it. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Michelle, go ahead. Oh, let me unmute you.
Okay. No, I was just saying you need a variety of foods in moderation. Many of the foods that we consider, I try to tell my patients and clients, there's really no bad foods. I go with the 80-20%. 80% of the time, if you eat this, not that, you eat it in proper portions. A lot of times, again, it's the way it's prepared. It's fine. I'm not into deprivation, but plant-based diet, you know, you can have meatless Monday, colorful foods. We use the programs, you know, red for stop, yellow be caution, and green eat as much as you want. And my motto is eat less and move more.
Move less and eat more.
No, the other way. Eat
the other
less
way.
and move
Eat
more.
That's, I'm sorry, that's my thinking. But I'm moving to after last week. I want to move to a healthier a healthier lifestyle. The doctors talked about lifestyle, and so I know Iva and Sheila, you all wrote a book, you know, about eating, you know, for kids, for eating books, and they even have a song because, you know, a lot of what the doctor said last week, it starts at the youth, and so even with the research showing about second and third graders, that our second and third grade African American children are starting to be obese at second grade, 8 and 9 years old. And so what can we do to get our children to eat more vegetables? I know that's on your plate, and I know you all do cooking shows. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Hello, everyone. I'll go first, and I know Sheila will definitely speak after me. But in terms of the book, we just published a book in November of last year, but we wrote the book 25 years ago because we were both first-time moms with 1-year-old sons. And it was our goal at that time to really focus on feeding our children healthy foods. And I think we ended up being pretty successful because my 2 sons and her 2 sons, Sheila's 2 sons, they all ended up being athletes. And we really, really honed in on healthy eating to the best of our ability. So fast forward now for the last 5 years, I've been a non-meat eater. I'm a pescatarian, but definitely vegetables are key. I grew up on my grandparents' farm every summer, so I have experienced every vegetable that you can think of, and I actually love vegetables. So our goal is to help kids get really excited about eating their vegetables. And we have a lot of ideas and ways that we're planning on making that happen. We want them to be able to see the vegetable from when it's a seed and actually planting it in the ground, doing some farming camps so that they can see it all grow, and then begin to help them to see how those vegetables actually can taste good, as long as you know how to prepare them in a way that would be entertaining and inviting and exciting for the kids to eat.
Okay.
And I was just going to add, you talked about the food channel. What we've been doing is really showing people ways that they can cook vegetables, you know, make them appealing, and not necessarily having to use all of the different salts and things like that, using different herbs and spices to make your vegetables taste good. I eat meat, so I'm kind of the opposite of Iva, but I eat it in, you know, sparingly. Like I do take times when I don't have meat, like I may eat meat only 3 or 4 times a week, and I try to eat more vegetables on my plate than I eat meat. But what we're trying to do is just to get the children involved. I think if you get children involved in cooking with you and showing them how cooking can be fun, and you know, then they tend to want to eat more vegetables and fruits and things like that. But like Iva said, we have a vision for what we want to do. We want to partner with some of our local farms, some of our local gardens, and make sure that we bring the children out there so that they have their own plots of land, that they can actually grow their own fruits and vegetables and then go back and pick them. So we hope to spark interest in them in eating at a very young age, because I can tell you, I'm a living testimony that if you don't do that, there are other health issues that will come later in life. And, I'm on the track now to reversing some of those things that you talked about.
Yeah, and they said there's very reversible if we start eating right. I want to go back to you, Michelle, talking about, they talked about the different eating habits, because you said it's not monolithic. Like, it's not just one way that it needs to be balanced, more balanced. And one is a pescatarian. I am also a pescatarian. I took meats out of my diet. I don't know, is it something in the foods today that make you more like the meats that make you more tired? I don't know. Is there something going on? What would you say to the shopper and deciding which foods to buy and which meats to buy?
Well, if you stay around the perimeter of the market, and now, of course, there are a lot of farmers markets, but the true supermarkets, if you go around the perimeter, that's where the fresh fruits and vegetables are, the fish, meat, chicken, things of that nature, dairy. So if you stay, when you start going up and down the aisle, more than likely the foods are more processed. But I agree with what everyone is saying. You do have to get the kids involved, but the parents also have to model, and they have to see that it's not something bad, and getting them cooking, stepping on a step stool if they have to. I know I was cooking my dad was a chef, so. But I think there are a lot of additives, but the consumer has really forced a lot of the manufacturers to back up off of a lot of unnecessary additives and fillers and things of that nature. So we have to speak up as well to the food manufacturers, because I mean, every family is not going to be able to stay around the parameter. There's dried beans and all kind of other good stuff down the aisles. And a few years ago, I was in a group, and just the regular consumer, to have the label up front and make more sense. Sizes, serving sizes that make sense. They have a drink and they say it's 3 servings. Well, the person's going to drink the whole thing, even if it's juice, whatever it is. So they're doing a better job, the manufacturers. And with organic, unfortunately, the price point for some people is not, they just can't do it. But I always say, buy what's in season and what's on sale. Plan your meals that way. And if you fail to plan to fail.
Correct. Now,
Yeah.
I know what Jean was saying earlier about churches. Kim used to do work out at our church, and I remember wanting to do smoothies after church. And our church was located in one of the neighborhoods that a neighborhood with a lot of poverty, and went to the store to buy the fresh fruit, maybe some almond milk, and a lot of I was unsuccessful. And I'm just really talking about food deserts in our community. How much of a factor do you think? Because I was even looking at getting orange juice, and it was no like fresh orange juice. It was just like Sunny Delight. How much of a factor do you see with being able to stay around the perimeter, where the perimeter has the necessary fruits and vegetables and
Nutrients.
fresh? How much a factor do you all see in stores that are in certain neighborhoods?
Well, I'll just say this, you can use frozen fruits and vegetables as well. And some of them actually have more nutrients because they're flash frozen. The way our supermarkets go now, not comparing it to a farmer's market, but the traditional supermarket, it's picked maybe 6 months ago. It has to travel here and there. It's in cold storage. It comes back out. So when the environment, a lot of the nutrients aren't there, even with the fresh fruits and vegetables. And then some of us cook them to death, and you could get something frozen and actually have be more nutrient dense.
That's interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. Because one of the comments that the doctors talked about last week, like collard greens is we, you know, we eat collard greens a lot, and it's one of the most nutritional
Yes.
vegetables. And we mess it up with all the fats and salts and put in there, and salt is one of the things that African Americans traditionally we hold on to, and that's why they're seeing a lot of diabetics and things like that
And
in our
hypertension,
community.
yeah.
And so because of our salt intake, and we're not taking the water pills correctly, because I guess we hold a lot of that. And so what you're saying is some of the frozen foods might be better, but what can we do to cook our collard greens better and make them taste just as good as my dear, like what grandma did, or in my
Well,
case,
I
grandmother.
know some vegetarians, they use like liquid smoke.
Okay.
We personally at home use smoked turkey wings.
Okay.
And we stopped cooking them to death as well.
So when you mean cook
And
them to
this
death,
is
what happens when we cook them too long? Because
the
someone says
nutrients
the
are good.
longer you cook them, the better they are. Like that's what
Well,
I was.
maybe taste, but not nutrient.
Okay.
Yeah, and the pot liquor is great for you.
The pot liquor.
Yeah. So you can definitely, you can saute them. You can actually use some. I've seen where people have used them in non-traditional recipes, just like spinach and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you can experiment.
Yeah, I want to definitely agree with experimenting. And I think
Hmm.
that's been the most exciting part definitely for me over the last 5 years with being a pescatarian and having to do some exploration. But I want to hone in on what can make the vegetables taste good. I definitely believe in the frozen vegetables, especially when you had a long work day and you want to come home and get something cooked very fast. So we buy them in bulk from Costco or Sam's. They have the broccoli that comes in packages of 6, green beans, and once you cook them, it is as if you started from a fresh piece of broccoli that wasn't frozen. But I also believe in using the cut up seasoning, the onions and the peppers that are also frozen. I think some people call it seasoning blend, but if you use those seasonings and you saute those first and add your vegetables, you can have a rich flavor that far surpasses how they taste when they're boiled all the way down with a lot of meat. So there's a way to make it happen, and creativity is very, very key. One thing that I did just last week that we posted online was to show people how simply you can just put frozen broccoli on a pan and spray Pam over it. Not air fry it, but put it in your oven, 350 degrees, and roast it. Roasted broccoli has a flavor that is wonderful. So definitely experimentation and being creative is very key.
I do a lot of vegetables because I'm vegan. So I can make just about anything. Lasagna, I make lasagna. You can use roasted vegetables. You can take the frozen vegetables, roast them, and then layer them with your tomato sauce. If you want cheese, you can put cheese. I don't normally use it, but you can do that. So I do a lot of vegan food and a lot of ethnic foods from all over the country, like the Asian foods, Chinese and Thai food, Korean food, but it's all so healthy and clean and colorful. I always tell people, get a lot of color on your plate. Like Michelle was saying, the 80-20 rule, 80% of what's on your plate should be vegetables and grains and a smaller amount of meat. And I think a long time ago, African Americans they ate more vegetables and greens and beans and stuff like that. And the meat portion was smaller, but now it's become, like a wealth thing that the bigger the piece of meat, the wealthier you are, or I don't know, but it's just insane. The amount of meat that they will serve you at a restaurant is enough for 4 servings, and they're serving it to you as 1.
Yeah, it is a cultural perspective. So I want to go, I want to talk about a little bit about how um, last week the doctors were saying by the time they see the patient it's really too late. What can we do? What are some interventions that get, and I'm going back to movement. Okay, so we talked about diet, just having a balanced diet and eating right, and having that 80% of vegetables on your plate. What are some interventions to reach out to the different generations? Because again, there are certain generations now that thickness is in, and then we have older people who aren't moving. Let's talk about we talked about the youth. What are some things that we could do or what are some interventions for the youth that we can do to reach out to get them moving a little bit more?
I'll speak from my perspective. Everything is on the internet right now. Dancing, exercise. I see the teens and the youth getting into the TikTok dancing. That keeps them active. Simple TikTok dancing, music. They love music. The youth love music. If you can, dance classes, dance competitions. Those are things that, those are some strategies. I know working at the YMCA, a group from Hillsborough Community College would come over, and that's what they wanted to do. And that's how they kept them active, dancing. So first thing you want to do is find the popular music that everybody's TikToking to, and they get excited, extremely excited. Now it's interesting to them.
So,
So
so
you have to
the
The
movements
other,
like the Zumba classes and things like
yep.
that are fun. Mhm.
And another big key piece is the education too. These kids are smart. I
Mhm.
mean, these kids are smart. They just haven't, this is just learned behavior, and they need, I think the education tool is a big proponent of getting our kids healthy.
What about the older generation? How are y'all getting them up and moving,
the
and how
older
important it
generation.
is?
Mhm.
I believe the older generation are more active, are starting to be more active because that's all they hear the doctors telling you to stay active, diet and exercise when they go to the diet. So you see more of I notice when I'm out there in the community, the first thing in the morning, you see those older, they're walking, they're doing their laps in the community at the park. The younger ones are more into the technology, which is keeping them active. You know, like I said again, the TikTok dancing. Okay, but the older group, they tend to. I noticed that they tend to be a little more active than the youth.
And the biggest thing is to get them moving, but the what you have to do is meet them where they are. So you find out what they like. What are the things that you like to do?
Mhm.
And that is usually where I meet them. And that is what happened when I had the Sisters in Action. They actually we have a riverbank run here, which is the largest 25K in the country.
Mhm.
But they also have a 5K and a 10K. Well, I had 15 of my group, no, of women do that race. Some were older, some had never walked or ran that far,
Mhm.
but they either did the 5K or the 10K, and it was absolutely amazing. They thought they could never, ever do anything like this. And the looks on their face when they got that medal coming over the finish line was just pure joy. But the thing is to meet them where they are and what they like to do. And it could be a reading group, it could be cooking. So, okay, periodically you have women go from a group of women, maybe go to one house and you do gourmet cooking.
Mhm.
That person, that host may decide we're going to focus on Korean food or Asian food this week, or Greek food. And you're going to have a lot of green vegetables. You're going to have a lot of interesting blends. So this way it sort of broadens their horizon. They know soul food. They know how to cook that. But this way it moves them out of their comfort zone to sort of try some new things. And then guess what? The kids are trying it too.
So, Michelle, may I ask about reading labels? You mentioned that earlier about reading labels. What are we looking at when we're reading those labels? We have all these names and stuff. What sugar percentage? Like, talk about that a little.
Well, the most important, or some of the key things, is the sodium. So if you are hypertensive, or you need to monitor your sodium, you don't want more than 100. They can't say low sodium unless it has 140 milligrams or less.
Okay.
You want to really hone in on what they've done a better job with calories per serving. If it's 2 servings in the can and each one is 150, but you ate the whole can, then you ate 300 calories, not 150. Protein is important. That's usually not a problem unless you, and you're on dialysis or you have some other kidney issues. So I think sugar, salt, fat, and calories are the key.
So the sugar percentage, or the milligrams, the salt, and the
Right.
calories.
So 15 grams of carbohydrate is 1 carb serving. So say you're a diabetic, and it's not true. People say it all the time. They can't have carbs. They can't have sugar. That's not true. It's a limited amount based on you as an individual. So if it had 45 grams of carb, and your healthcare professional said you need to, monitor 45 at each meal, then if you ate that particular product, then everything else has to be protein and no carbohydrate or low carbohydrate. So it's about, again, I think at the end of the day, it's all about balance.
So just based on what you said, what I hear, even with all the diets that are coming out, they have this diet, Atkins diet, and keto diet, and all these different diets. We have a plethora of us. We have a vegetarian, we have a vegan, we have a pescatarian. We have all these different types. Before starting any diet, would it be good to talk to your healthcare professional about yourself and your makeup and the same thing with exercise? It would behoove us to not extend ourselves and maybe
get a physical. If you've been a couch potato, absolutely. But it has to turn, no matter what pattern you're following, it has to turn into a lifestyle. It can't. It's nothing quick and easy, and it's no one size fits all. And someone said, I meet everybody where they are. Even with the elderly or the older generation, which I am one of them, we've even done like chair exercises, just as long as they're moving. You could take cans out of your pantry and use them for weights, and I can't speak to it like several of the panelists, but you can use your body as a weight, a hula hoop, and you're laughing. Laughter cures all. So
wow. Well, research shows that people who exercise have better mental health and emotional well-being, and lower rates of mental illness as well.
Yeah, so, and they sleep better too.
So you don't have to take. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kimberly.
I get that a lot with the young ladies that I work out with. They notice their sleep patterns are better. They feeling like they have energy, even though the workouts may exert a lot of energy, and they're feeling worn out. The next day they're sore, or in 2 days they're sore, but they're ready to go at it again because they like the way it made them feel. But yes, a person that regularly exercises does have a mental and emotional well-being.
That's good.
It's yes.
All right. So in closing, I'm going to ask each of you all a question, and just in closing, what would you say to people to start making small changes on the road to eating healthier or being more active? And I'll just start from my screen. Iva.
You said small changes?
Yes. What are some small changes that people can do to get on the road to a healthier eating lifestyle or being more physically active? You can do either one.
And okay, so I will just share some small changes that have actually been shared in an online support group that I'm a part of. And someone said it earlier in terms of starting in your own home. If you are not able to go out to try to get healthier, you can start in your own home. There are the old school exercises that we learned how to do a long time ago. They really, really work. Back then, when I was being told to do arm rotations, I never thought about it back then. Why am I doing this? But I do them today. I do arm rotations forward and backward, and you get a serious burn. And you are actually building muscle by doing the arm rotations. I do head, shoulders, knees, and toes. I do all of those old school exercises, and I do enough reps in my own home, even while you're watching television, because a lot of people spend a lot of time watching television. You don't have to sit down and do that. You can move while you're watching television. I even move while I'm cooking. Mm-hmm. I can be in the kitchen and I'm cooking, and I can get some steps in as well. So there's a lot of easy ways to make it happen in your own home.
All right. Thank you for that. Kimberly?
I definitely am a firm believer in packing and preparing. When I started on my fitness journey, I had to see what I was doing, and it was a confirmation for me before I walked out the door every night. This is my goal. So I make my, I have my beginners who's starting on a fitness journey or who wants to start on a road to starting, prepare it. Just like you do anything else, a job you will prepare for, you make your you make out your resume, you study your company. Same thing we need to do with our health. We need to start out by planning it. Give ourselves a goal. Maybe you want to give yourself a goal. Start in maybe 2 weeks and see how you do. May have a meal plan. Get a meal plan. Know what you're going to eat. Get out a schedule, make sure you have a workout schedule, something that you're going to do, whether it's outside or, like you said, inside your home. After, while you're watching television, do it during your workout, during a commercial break. So I'm a firm believer in preparing yourself. Mentally, you have to get right. You see it, and then you're on a road to a fitness journey.
All right, thank you. Sheila, same question.
So it's funny that we talked about dancing, because that's one of my favorite things to do. Yes. And I remember when I was on this weight loss journey, the one thing that I did was I had my Alexa here, and I would play music in the evenings, and I would dance for at least an hour. You'll be amazed at how you can move when you're moving to music. But the other thing I would say more importantly is to start small. I think, I'm not a big advocate of diets, because I think people, they do it for a little bit, they lose the weight, and then they fall back. So meal planning is important, but start small. Start from where you are. You don't have to walk an hour a day. Maybe you only walk 15 minutes, and you build up to 20 minutes and 30 minutes. So my big advice would be to start small.
Start small. All right. Jean?
I think exercise is very important. And I found that once you start moving, I meet them where they are, and you start moving and you just start doing things, you want to eat better because you'll start to see some changes. But exercise is not just, it's getting your heart rate up. So you do want to be able to work all your muscles of your body, because your heart's a muscle. You want to work that heart muscle too. Because I've had people say, oh, my heart rate's going up, or I'm sweating. And so I'm going to back it down. I don't want to work anymore. Well, that's at the point where your body is telling you your workout is working. Keep going. So unless you're in pain, I tell people to start exercising, start small. I had one woman, she was so heavy, she only could walk 1 block. That's all she started with. And now she runs marathons.
Wow.
And she's down 100 pounds. But she started walking just 1 block, and her husband would go with her every single time. And then she added a block at a time, a block at a time. So you start small, you build on that, but you do have to get your heart rate up. You don't walk it. Once you get the pace, you walk a block, the next time you walk that block a little bit faster, and then maybe a little bit faster, but you're still walking, but you're doing something to help your body. Just walking around the block is not going to help you or help you see any changes if you don't make changes first.
Michelle, make sure you unmute yourself. There you go.
I agree with everyone. This has been a real pleasure, but I totally agree with starting small. And I try to encourage more water and to actually measure it and challenge yourself if you can, get through the day. And you can put lemon, lime, mint, even frozen grapes if you have a sweet tooth. And trying to try one new vegetable or fruit a week. And I'm a big believer on Meatless Monday or whatever catchy for your family to enjoy. So that.
All right. I want to thank you all for being with us today and this great informative session. We're on a road to getting healthy. We know where it will take us. We don't want to see those doctors that were on the call last week. They don't want to see us either. And so we have to do what's right. We have to eat right and exercise, get our body moving. This was so informational. I appreciate all of your suggestions. Let's get out here and do it right. And with that,
Angela,
yes.
can I say one more thing?
Yes.
I do Zoom classes so that people can see them at home.
Well,
I actually do Zoom classes.
Go ahead and put all of your information in the chat for all of our participants.
Okay.
Put your information.
I'll email it to you.
Okay, you can email it to me. If you have any, if you're local, go ahead and put your information in the chat. And even you can, I'm pretty sure that Michelle would love for you to reach out to her. She has a business. She is the nutrition planner, so she can help you with planning those meals that Kimberly said that you should go out and make sure you have a plan. You need that support of a nutritionist to help, so you're not packing chips like I do, to be healthy. So make sure you all get your information in there. This has been amazing. This has been an amazing session. And with that, I want to tell you all thank you. Again, from the bottom of our heart, this concludes all of our Black History Month health and wellness. Let's go out and be healthy and well. To everyone, thank you and good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.